So in this video, we're going to be talking about Michael Jackson and all the really crazy ways of conspiracy theories of what actually happened to his life. So it's going to be like the other video I did with the same subject, but this one's going to be more freaky with heaps of thoughts coming out of nowhere about things that happened. So was Michael really bad? Yeah, he was actually. He was said to have once been in jail, which is why some of his film clips have him in jail. And the film clip of him in South America, he was being really bad there as well because he was protesting in an area that didn't allow protesting. Even screaming in the street was considered protesting. And so the cops that were lining up behind him, they were actually real South American cops, lining up because he's disturbing the whole area. So in these kinds of ways, he was actually really bad, and he was also said to have been quite abusive in relationships. So was Michael ever really sad? Yeah, he was sad too. He often was sad because there were people hating him. He'd turn around his shoulder and there would be someone thinking he's doing something crazy when he's just doing something like getting ready to perform on stage. So in these particular instances, he was actually sad of being put under speculation when he wasn't even doing anything too crazy. But he was also sad because he couldn't afford his own home. He was at first urged to live with his family in the family home for a long time, but then after he managed to get away from his family, he couldn't afford his own home, which is why he moved around a lot. And he was supposed to be a multi-millionaire and he couldn't afford his own home. So was Michael ever really famous, or was it all a stage show? Everyone thinks that he was surrounded by people who were supporting him, like fans. They're just endlessly supporting him ever since his early career. In this way, it's kind of a bit of a stage because his fan support is gonna be there so that he can be put up in big lights. And so in that way it was staged, but a lot of times, he brought out a lot of chemical reactions, which were people really wanting to enjoy him and his look and race after him. So did Michael ever publish a book? Yeah, he published his own book in the 1980s. Had to do about his life and his career, and it was written by someone else. Someone else published it, but he actually was telling the person who published it his life story at one stage. And they sort of researched him and got him to tell them about his life in the span of like 3 to 5 years. And that's how they developed a book that they were able to publish. And it got to high sales. Was Michael actually killed? Was he really killed? Yeah, his doctor was said to have given him an injection which killed him. But he was said to have been put under abuse by other people. The cops were putting him under some sort of physical abuse, and in some interviews he had bruises on him for being manhandled by cops too roughly. And a lot of other people hated him, his management, he didn't really like him very much. And other people outside the industry didn't like him, so yeah, he was definitely some kind of person who had a lot of haters on his back. It said that he was actually body doubled in his career because his earlier person was actually murdered early in the 1980s. So, and people say that he was body doubled in the 1970s even. And even from the 1960s, there were supposed to be two 7-year-olds by the time he was 11 or so playing him. So he's definitely been a disjointed figure. A lot of people speculate that there was more than one person playing the character because he's already been killed many times as well. But his eventual death was supposed to have been aided by the doctor. He already had a heart murmur, and he often didn't feel like doing his shows because he had a heart murmur. And the doctor, whatever they injected him with, it actually, harmed him to the point that he just died all of a sudden. But some people claim that he was actually being physically attacked by other people, including the people who were helping him with the 80-day shows or whatever, shows every day for 80 days. That whole event was set up so that he might be able to become really famous, like many other celebrities are famous. But it was also to put him under the test. They see him only doing one show every year, and they want him to do 80 shows all of a sudden. And it's just so that they can put him and his health under the test. And if he feels like he's going to have a heart attack, they were just ignoring that and telling him to do the 80 shows until he agreed to do it. So, in a sense, he was already being urged to overwork and to strain himself to the point that he could die of a heart attack already. And this is possibly why he made frantic calls to some friends saying that people wanted him dead. They just wanted to overwork him to put his physical limits to the test already. So, in a way, that's kind of like a murder, like forcing someone to do 80 shows one after the other every day for 80 days when they usually do one show a year or a set of shows once every week for a few weeks or whatever. To have that come up as one show every day for 80 days is like something completely surprising, and they were already wanting to put his endurance to the test because he never worked that hard ever, and putting him against other celebrities who work every day for many months of every year, they wanted to overwork him all of a sudden. And in a way that may have put him to the test, but people think if he hadn't left his workplace in Europe or London or wherever and gone to America for a one-day break, he wouldn't have been attacked by the doctor, and he wouldn't have been given that injection. He would probably still be alive, and he'd have done those 80 days. So, it's not saying that people wanted to murder him, but to put him in a position of where he could overwork himself and give himself a stroke. In a way, that's sort of wanting him killed. But they're also testing him to be able to bonify his role as a celebrity. They also wanted to test him. But many people think he would have ended up still alive if he had stayed and not gone back home, but he did. And what really killed him was a heart attack or a heart failure, which was brought on because of an injection that his body couldn't handle at the time. So, yeah, he was definitely killed sometime, especially at the end.